Yes.
Great,
Yes.
great. All right. So hi to everybody and welcome to our webinar, Skyrocket Deal Velocity with Data-Led Sales Transformation. My name is Dave Alexander. I'm the VP of Client Services at Enquero, leading our partnership with Salonist. Today, we are joined by Moeen Raymond, the VP of Data and Analytics, a subject matter expert in sales transformation, Francisco Alejo, Enquero Principal Architect, who has developed and analyzed deal velocity dashboards for some of our key customers, and Franz Grader, the Regional Channel Director for Salonist. We're going to discuss today industry drivers and metrics, plus identifying execution gaps, and finally analyzing, optimizing, and automating towards accelerating deal velocity. A little about us. Enquero is a digital transformation company focusing on helping enterprises in their digital transformation journey by leveraging the power of hyperautomation, advanced analytics, and digital engineering. Our software products and consulting services accelerate data-driven impact for enterprises. We build a connected strategy, process, and architecture digital ecosystem by leveraging data, innovative technologies such as Celonis EMS, plus the best practices from our centers of excellence. Today, Enquero and Celonis will share our recipes for success to enable data-driven sales transformation and accelerate deal velocity. Over to you, Moeen.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Thanks for the introduction. And my name is Moeen Raymond. As Dave introduced me, I'm part of Enquero, and I work with a lot of companies across, especially around high tech, on driving outcomes in sales operations and anything basically from lead to order. So I'm a process guy, as well as I also lead our data analytics practice. So we try to bring in both data and analytics together to solve our customers' problems. And I just wanted to set the context first on how we can use process mining, really data-led decision making through the Salonist platform to drive deal velocity. Just to give some business background, so as we work with many of our clients, especially in the last couple of years, we've seen some trends in the industry which are changing the way our clients operate. And the left-hand side, you see the industry drivers. Just to summarize, I think there's a huge change we're seeing where everything is becoming recurring revenue and everything is becoming anything as a service. And also we're seeing a huge importance of experience. And the last one I want to point out which is the second bullet, is we're seeing a change in the way people sell. And we're seeing move from product centricity to a lot of use case and industry-led centricity. Now, all these things, I think, are creating some new needs within business, within organizations. And anything from simplified processes to selling more deals through bundling and upsells and cross-sells, and driving more visibility into the processes. I think those are some key needs we're seeing across the board, and we'll connect that back how Salonist will help us meet those needs. Dave, can you go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. So as I said, we love data and we love data-driven decisions. So one of the first things we ask our clients to do is we want to turn our process into metrics. And that's that's the best way to quantify the process. So this is just an overview of, I would say this is a typically high-tech process, high-tech company process, from planning all the way to customer success. And we've turned, and I've just highlighted some of the key metrics. And deal velocity, if you look at it, is sort of between lead and opportunity and quote and order. That's where the complexity happens, which could impact how fast the deals are going through our processes and systems. And at the bottom, I've got some high-level KPIs here. These KPIs, like for example, approval cycle time, these KPIs become sort of fundamental building blocks on how we want to quantify our process, and then using those building blocks, then how we want to drive analysis and mining the gap, so to speak, to improve our processes and ultimately driving more deal velocity through our organization. Dave, do you want to go to the next slide? So I just wanted to highlight some of the problems we have typically found using data-driven analysis. And I'm not going to drain this whole slide because there's a lot of information here. But where deals slow down, where we see impact on deal velocity, starting with your offer and life structure and life cycle. One of the key things we find here is when if offers are not consistent, they have different products have different offer life cycles. This slows down the deal. And I think I'm going to talk about the one in the middle, deal management. That's another key area. I think the key highlight there, just want to point out, is when we start. One of the examples I like to use is one of our clients. We start at a very high level of, okay, let's look at deal approval. But when we started using Salonist, we found out that there are so many nuances on how a deal is approved. Anything from a region you're in to even the product bundling configuration you have could affect your deal approval cycle. So just wanted to highlight some key areas, and of course, anytime we can identify where a manual touch is happening, obviously slows down your deals. But these are kind of hypotheses we can create with Celonis, and then go find the root cause and then fix it. And I'm going to hand it over to now my colleague Francisco, who's going to talk about how we make this hypothesis-driven approach real through Celonis.
Thanks, Moin. So I'm Francisco. I'm our digital architect for business transformation. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can accelerate that journey using Celonis. So what we're showing right now is kind of a 3-stage accelerator model of how we actually make this real. So in our first stage, it's really to identify the key business metrics that you want to impact and what you can do to impact those things, whether they're policies or processes or systems. Jointly with the client, we generate a list of hypotheses. What if we changed XYZ, or people in the field are complaining to me about XYZ. So those are all very qualitative ideas. And what we do is we gather those things and we test them against the data using the Salonist platform. So we'll do hypothesis testing, simulation. We'll validate them. We'll see if they're real problems or they're just the loudest person complaining. And then coming out of these, we find the ones that really would impact the business, and we create solutions around those, whether they're simple policy changes or major transformations. For example, if we find a specific deal approval is getting stuck for a specific region in Europe, we can implement something to fix that. And then once we have all these solutions, we now know the data-driven impact of implementing all these solutions. This now creates a transformational roadmap that we can execute and realize value in the right order and with the most value upfront as possible. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Franz, who's going to talk about opportunity management and provide a demo.
Yeah, thank you, Francisco. So really excited to showcase everyone today how you could accelerate your deal velocity and improve the overall sales process with leveraging the Celonis Opportunity Management Execution app. And in doing so, I'll start off with an overview of how sales teams operate today, explain some of the challenges or the execution gaps we see that are preventing sales teams from operating at their full capacity. Then I'll quickly describe how the Celonis Opportunity Management app uniquely addresses those challenges before jumping in the demo and wrapping it up with next steps in a quick customer example. So if we look at what happened over the past 20 years, we've witnessed massive growth in spending on tools that should help sales team improve their performance. However, those tools, they have promised to digitize and automate the sales process, but the companies that have spent billions or tens of billions dollars on their CRMs and analytics and sales automations, they're not getting quite out what they're looking for. So we digged up some numbers. If I look, for example, at the average total quota attainment, according to Forrester, it sits as 43%. The average close rate sits at only 19%. The forecast accuracy, only around the 70s. So in spite of all of those investments, we're not achieving the results that we would expect. So for example, if you look at how many reps hit their quota, it's less than 50%, and it takes them on average more than 30 months to hit their quota for the first time. if we compare that and benchmark it to the leading organizations in the industry, they have more than 70% of their reps hitting quota, and the ramp time is only a third of that, coming in closely under a year. So what we witnessed is that despite the investments in technology, the sales organizations still don't execute at their maximum capacity. So why do these execution gaps occur? What we found happening in the market is that these gaps still occur because the sales process mainly runs through a rigid and fragmented sales system. So the systems are super static. They only allow like reporting on the outcomes. They don't really drive action. And really often we still rely on managers and their ability to identify the gaps and rely on their skill to execute. So what we've seen is that those gaps are obvious in 4 primary areas of the sales organization. Next slide, please. So the first one is pipeline gaps. So when you don't know where your true gaps are, and if you can detect them, they're detected way too late, so you don't have the pipe to cover your forecast anymore. The second one would be the pipeline quality. So still today, there's not really a data-driven way of assessing your pipeline quality. So at the best, we still rely on managers and the reps entering like the probability to close. So it's still human judgment, no data. Third category would be CRM hygiene. So despite all of those investments in sales I just pointed out, so the data really often still is untrustworthy, what means like the CRM system doesn't help you to follow your sales methodology. And finally, fourth category is forecasting. So and usually that number is the result of the subjective assessment of your teams. So you still have no way of triangulating and understanding how this number can be objectively confirmed. So with that and all of that reasons, we decided to come up with the Celonis Opportunity Management Execution app. And this really is something that helps you to guide you to close all those sales execution gaps. It accelerates the sales process, ultimately really empowers the whole organization to win more, win faster, and win smarter. And what that means in particular, I'm going to outline a little later. First of all, I want to show you how it works, right? So first, we've built that opportunity management application on top of our world-class EMS. The EMS is the execution management system, a platform that powers execution management. We've done this in over 2,000 customer deployments already. And it all starts at the bottom here with extracting the real-time data from your CRM source systems and getting that into our 2 core engines, the core mining engine and the automation engine, and then using machine learning to really drive insights and action. So doing so, we have developed a really easy 3-step approach. We call it measure, no act. So first, Celonis measures the relevant sales KPIs. We do so by connecting to all your different CRM instances, homegrown systems in real time, and we visualize your end-to-end sales process. So that helps us to identify those gaps of what's happening currently, what's not happening, and we do that automatically, actually. So then we use this patented technology to really know which gaps have the biggest impact on you achieving your KPIs. So we identify those specific actions for each individual in your organization to take at exactly the right time that directly removes those gaps or helps you really to hit those KPI targets. And lastly, we direct and take action. So anything that previously has been done super manual, we automate all those manual tasks in multiple and additional source systems, feed back to those source systems, and really prioritize those specific actions, leads, accounts, opportunities that sales reps should take advantage of. That said, we've seen huge impact of that in the market. So what we've seen is across those 4 buckets I outlined earlier, with Celonis, really you can get up your pipeline or your pipe gap management. So really identifying the gaps early, you can improve your quota attainment on that. We've seen the pipeline quality assessment really helping you to steer your resources to the top quality opportunities. We've seen those numbers raise up over 30% in the market. CRM hygiene, so identifying those fields and activities that have the biggest impact on your performance. And then forecasting guide, we are using basically 4 different views for the forecast to leverage our machine learning predictions so you can get those numbers up as well. And in doing so today, I want to show you how this works across 4 different personas. So here you would see the blueprint of our solution, and I'm going to kick it off with wearing the hat and role play different personas. So I'm going to start off with Marie, who's in the bottom right here, and she's a sales strategy and ops manager. Then I'm going to be Sam, who's a sales manager that's in a little bit of trouble because he has a really low performing rep on his team. That's Nicole that we see up here that I will introduce after that. And finally, I'm going to elevate it to the highest level and really have the overall company view from Anna's perspective, who is the company's chief revenue officer. So in that said, I'm going to quickly share my screen and give you an insight into how the opportunity management system really works. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. So let's assume first hat I'm wearing really is Marie, right? Strategy and ops manager. She already leveraged our Salesforce connectors. They're all available in the Celonis App Store. She has connected all her multiple Salesforce instances, and she now has access to all her real-time sales process data. So the first screen she focuses on here is really the vanilla screen. So it's the classic Celonis. If you've experienced it previously, that's the classic Celonis we all know and love. The so-called variant explorer already gives her the full power of process mining in the middle here. So the first thing Celonis surfaces is really the most common variant of how this sales process is running. And as we see here in this analysis, unfortunately, this most common variant really leads to a close lost opportunity. So what she's going to do is she keeps exploring the other variants to get to a winning opportunity. And if we unveil the sales process further, oh yeah, that's nice. Give me a second to log in again, please. So if you unveil this sales process further, we're able to see all the different variants that this sales process is taking. And so it's only at the third variant for that the first time the process really concludes in an opportunity closed one. So whilst generally that's good news, as we see on the bottom right here, that's only the 3 most common variants we're displaying right now. And in this demo set, we have more than 80 different variants. And the process can get really messy. So if you imagine a multi-thousand salespeople organization, right, the process is very likely to have hundreds, if not thousands of different variants. What would lead us to a picture that's similar to that, when we really have the end-to-end process transparency in that. So, however, Celonis really made it easy for strategists like Marie to dig into that data and conceive all the information of her sales process and really understand where those execution gaps are. So as mentioned, we have an EMS store, and in there we already have several ready-to-use analysis for the sales process, and we call them execution instruments. As you see here, Marie already installed 2 of our instruments, one around close rate and one around benchmarking. So let's say here she is leveraging the close rate instrument and really having a deeper look into her process. When looking at her organization's overall historic close rate, she notices that she sits at 18%, which is way below the attainment that Anna, the CRO, wants to see. But she also could see other important KPIs right away. So amount of won opportunities, average order value, average sales cycle length. And to her left, she can already use the full power of our Process Explorer and helps her to discover which steps in the sales process really lead to better close rates. So we're making her life much easier, actually. We automatically surface all of those gaps that are most influential to those close reps. So if you think about that, sales best practices automatically surface to her. So the first one we brought up here is the impact that inviting a customer to an executive briefing has before the proof stage. So it really increases the chances of winning the opportunity. In fact, if you look at this opportunity here, where this step is added, the close rate reaches 47%. And if it was added after the stage executive alignment, this even goes up over 60%. So what this shows us is that it doesn't only matter if something happens, but really also when it happens within your sales process. And similar, Marie could see the impact of adding like executive sponsors or slipped opportunities in that. So amazing, powerful tool. that helps her not only understand those execution gaps inside the organization, but she could easily quantify that, why it's really important for everyone to really close them. I think that's what in the end everyone really is interested in, is the close rates, right? So what she also could do now is really dig in and see how she could help her team. If we look at the bottom right here, we see the different sales managers. And Marie wants to help Sam, as he's the least performing manager in the organization. If you look at him, Sam is in a little bit of trouble. He sits at a 7% average close rate, and that's much lower as his counterpart, for example, Lon. So let's assume she leverages our second instrument that she already pre-installed. What's the benchmarking? So looking at the benchmarking here, Marie could easily compare the performance of Sam versus Lon or any other manager in the team across all the important KPIs. She also could do that at any point in the hierarchy. So filter on industry, filter on product, etc. And this is extremely powerful because her as a strategist and a big thinker, she could really use that to maximize the organization's execution capacity at scale with those execution instruments. However, there's one thing we didn't do yet, and we haven't made a direct connection yet to the execution of the actual sales process, right? So how can Marie close all those execution gaps that she has discovered with the execution instruments to support her entire team? And that said, I'm gonna switch heads real quick and jump into the role of Sam that we saw here, who sits at this close rate of only 7%. So I'm now Sam, the sales manager. I'm just logging into my opportunity management execution app. And let's assume I just walked out of a forecast call with my manager. I'm a little bit nervous, as we've just seen in the execution instrument. Sam wasn't doing that well in quota attainment. And so he's also worried about his forecast. So first thing I think every manager thinks about is, how am I going to do the forecast for the quarter? And the second is, like, am I going to make the plan for the year? Here on the top, Sam already gets an overview of his most important KPIs. So what is forecasted, how much is closed, the delta to close, the coverage. But he also gets the 4 main buckets of execution gaps automatically surfaced. So for example, here on the right, Celonis is alerting him that there's a 27% risk that he might not make his number this quarter. So, and the other ones that are already overviewed for him as well are execution gaps that require his attention. So currently the 2 main other ones are that he has not enough pipeline and that he has problems with the quality of his existing pipeline. So given that he's already halfway into the quarter, he thinks he may not have the time to build additional pipeline. So that's why he's immediately focusing on improving the quality of the existing pipe. So as we see here, currently his pipe sits at 25% pipeline quality compared to the company average, and that sits at 47%. And that's based on our Celonis quality index. So you might wonder, hey, what's the Celonis quality index? We call it CQI, and it's a KPI that we developed that measures the quality of every single opportunity, determines the probability of winning that opportunity by the close dates data. So we do this obviously by leveraging our process mining, but also machine learning algorithms, as well as the previous behavior of similar types of opportunities in the past. So very powerful tool that helps him to get insights. And if we look at that here, he immediately sees that his rep, Nicole, only sits at 12% of pipeline quality. And that's almost half than her next best performing peer. So he's wondering, hey, how can I better understand that? How can I really take actions, and how do I know which actions to take to help out Nicole? So he's jumping into a deep dive on that. And we're now in the manager deep dive dashboard, where Sam would use this to really dive deeper in his pipeline quality. He would notice that although Nicole has like the most pipeline of the team with $3.2 million in open pipe, she also sits at the lowest quality of her team at only 12%. So to the right here, Celonis outlines for him the main actions that, if taken, will significantly improve the quality of its pipeline overall. So for example, biggest impact would be by adding an executive sponsor. And if you remember, that was also the execution gap that Marie identified in the execution instrument earlier. So let's assume Sam is going to select this task. And then at the bottom, Celonis also gives him the list of opportunities that do not have an executive sponsor yet. So he could immediately take action for all of those opportunities by just selecting those boxes and going to ask all his sales reps to assign an executive sponsor to those opportunities right away. And similarly, he could continue taking multiple actions on this. We have hundreds of actions, we call them skills, and they are already built into this application. So now we would see how, or now we could see how does this look from a rep perspective after she got that trigger from her manager. As a matter of time, I'm only jumping into that real quickly. So that would be the rep view here. She could compare herself to the peers, and likewise, she would get recommendations for next best possible actions. But as a matter of time, I want to elevate this to the highest possible level and really start wearing the hat of our Chief Revenue Officer. So let's go into the big picture of the organization. CRO, I'm now going to be Anna. So Anna, she's super happy camper. If she looks across her metrics here, leveraging the Celonis Opportunity Management app, sales control center that we have for executives here, she realizes that everything looks quite good, right? So she's not concerning. We actually provide her with industry benchmarks. So she sees for pipeline quality, she's just a little bit below CRM hygiene. She's actually above industry benchmark. So after checking out the quarter, her next step obviously is jumping into the plan for the overall year. So when looking into the year, her main KPIs are still on the top here. So how much she committed, how much is closed, first thing she sees in the forecast. So everything right at the top here visible for her. And then also her 4 different KPI levels here. We would see that her forecast is a little bit at risk, as well as her pipeline gap. I mean, like reps don't often forecast a lot in advance for the next quarters. So she's more concerned about pipeline gaps. And that's actually the little red dots that we have here. We call them signals. And those red dots signal that there's going to be an issue with pipeline gap. So we calculate automatically how much revenue she could generate off that. Oh, thank you. And the different stages that she would need for that. So the red bar down here, that's actually based on what she has won, what she's really likely to win. And that shows that she needs another 77 million in pipeline to make this year. And immediately she could see all her directors and managers and sees that out of the 77 million, her manager for the Northeast, Casey, actually has the biggest gap with over 15 million. And Celonis is doing something really cool here. We actually show her immediately that all the accounts that do not have an opportunity today. So that's a great place to start to create new pipeline. But more intelligently, the account score you see on the right here, that's actually automatically created. So the app ranks those accounts by an account score, which is a recommendation on which accounts are the most important based on industry, based on past behavior, could also be set by the sales ops manager. So with that, I want to wrap the demo real quickly. I know we're already at the bottom of the time, but I'm really excited. I think we saw a few things that are not possible with other technology, if you think about it, that's already in the market, right? So these technologies, normally, they only report on outcomes, don't drive the real-time action based on impact, and rely heavily on the managers. So if you think about it in this example, we've had several personas. So Marie would not be able to understand the execution gaps. Our Anna, the CRO, she probably would still be comfortable about the current quarter, but she could now already identify the gap of her team for the overall close plan. So we developed this to really turn sales from an art rather into a science. And that's it. I'll jump back into our deck real quick. Here I have a quick wrap up about what's in it across all the different personas in your sales teams. So the different views we went into and stated. But now you're basically wondering, how is this put into action and what's the outcome we see in the market? So I'm jumping over that rather quickly. And I want to show you one of our great customer success examples with a huge high-tech client here, Dell. So Dell already uses a lot of different tools, but they actually found that by using Celonis, they were able to give more than 500,000 hours back to their sales team and close more deals. So Dell, if you think about it, huge organization, 30,000 reps, they perform over 1.5 million unique sales activities every day, and they had hundreds of variations in their sales process. And we looked at that and we found one area that had the biggest impact on close rates and productivity. It's the configure price quote process, CPQ, quite complex due to the depth of Dell's business and all the different product lines, but we found those specific gaps in the process that had the largest negative impact on the, and then we provided recommended actions and automations to remove those gaps and improve productivity for those guys. So I'll summarize it up before handing over to Francisco. So basically I said, win more, win faster, win smarter. Win more is more ops, bigger ops, and higher close rates. Faster is really shorten the sales cycle length, and smarter with lower cost to book and improved forecast accuracy. And now Francesco is quickly showing you and how you can put it in action together with Enquero.
Thanks, Franz. So we can actually realize value in about 4 weeks. First, we identify our business objectives. What levers or what metrics do we want to impact? What are initial hypotheses? This can be done in a quick meeting or a design thinking workshop. Then we start connecting to all the various systems that contain all the process information, whether it's a CRM, a CPQ system, a workflow engine, wherever all this information is. And once that's done, now we just configure views, KPIs, segments. We slice different parameters based on our hypotheses. We refine these, we show them to users, we iterate, and then finally we can go live and start measuring value in real time. We can test our hypotheses, identify areas of value, maybe execute the operating model that we showed earlier. But on top of that, we can also use this to measure the impact of all the transformations that we perform. So from kind of an initial concept to a realized value, it doesn't really take that much time. With that said, I'm gonna turn it over to Brandon for our next segment.
All right. Yeah, thank you all for joining. Thanks for being a part of this presentation. And if you have any questions, you can just reach directly out to us.